question over there.
How do you guys select your continuing education, especially when there's so much information out there?
I have I kind of talked about before, I have kind of a small circle of people I trust, and I'll maybe, I don't want to say I only listen to that, but I kind of think, okay, what would this group of people that I trust think of this, and then I kind of go back to my education too. That's where school's important. A lot of people will complain about, well, you don't learn about this type of training in school or this, but your education is kind of your bullshit meter for me. If something new comes out, I kind of go back to that, and the people that taught me, what do those two groups kind of tell me about this new thing that came out? You know what I mean? So that's kind of where those come in for me.
I think for seminars and conferences like these, I think because most of the stuff that you'll be able to learn, the applicable information you'll be able to take back to your situation, which is going to be different than everybody else really you talk to, you'll still be able to use that information because it's that interaction. That's why, again, a book is never going to be a replacement for an actual conversation because, again, you have that feedback and you're able to ask questions off of that. So I think the fact that you're out and doing this right now, I think is probably the most, for a sports performance, probably the most important thing, is to get out and talk to other people that don't think like you. And I think that's important. And if you're asking professional development for a teacher, don't ask. I don't know. The last one we had was on how to administer naxolone to people that are OD. So that's my professional development. All right. I don't know if they just spent a lot of money, $150,000 in a school district in Columbus to teach them how to do triage at the school. How to actually, so I don't know where professional development education is going with education, but I think for sports performance, it's a little easier. Talk to the people that are doing the same thing that you are, right?
I'm a little different than the rest of the people on the panel because my business is business, but I'm still educating myself on training and methodology, so I get all the journal reviews, so the strength and conditioning review, mass review, Brett Contreras has one, there's 4 of them. I get those the first of each month. It's about 300 pages I end up scanning through. I'm also part of some email group that sends 8,000 fucking pages of research. So I go through, but I have to limit that because I'm a geek when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I got to really control how much time I spend on that. Where, from a business perspective, I have to look at where the business needs the most help. And then the first place I dive is into textbooks or MBA books, because the way that I like to frame this is we all know strength and conditioning. So if you went down the street to Barnes & Noble, how many books are you going to pick off the bookshelf that you're going to say, yeah, this is going to help me? You might get one that might give you an exercise that you forgot about. All right, but that's it. Okay, but everybody wants to recommend books from Barnes & Noble on business development. Those are always the top 10 books. You got to read this, you got to read this, you got to read this, you got to read this. Well, if this guy's about marketing, have you ever thought about reading a fucking marketing textbook? A MBA textbook on marketing? Because those are the sets and the reps. They're the basics. What you read in Barnes & Noble is put on a bookshelf to sell the book. So there might be some tips that are in there, but the number one reason it's put there is to sell. The number one reason a textbook is put into a university or high school or elementary school is to educate. So if you are looking for education, go to where the education is. Don't go to where it's fun. Textbooks are a lot more boring to read than the other crap. But I'll still read the Barnes & Noble crap, but I don't spend a lot of time. I skip through it, I skim through it, and I might find one takeaway, which then says, oh, go back to this chapter in this book on finance, or whatever it's going to be. So I think, from an education standpoint, that's kind of where we've gotten lost a little bit, and that I've always put out there when people say, well, what are the best books you should read? They're textbooks, man, if you really want to get educated.
I know all of you consulted or coached athletes at the collegiate level before, so if you could have their go back in time
they come in and think of workouts, it's their perception of what's hard. Like kids will go through a workout, it's the hardest thing they've ever had to do. No, it's really not. You know, I had a swimmer who grew up on a farm. He had to get up and this is me sounding like the old grumpy guy, you know. Oh, you're all soft, but the kid grew up on a farm, you know, woke up at 4, no cows, and then went to school, and then came back home and went to swim practice and did the same thing every day. So I was like, training's no big deal. So just be experienced to kind of tougher stuff, you know. Everybody talks about what, just like your question, where do we lack again? I think that would help us the most. You know, just understand what hard work is. 3 sets of 20 isn't, I mean, it's kind of hard. It's uncomfortable, but I wouldn't say it's real hard.
Why would you do 20 reps of anything? That's crazy.
Because Louis said so, bro. But yeah, just a little change of perception of what hard work is, I think, would be a big help.
I'm going to jump in because something was said at our sport training conference that really stood out during the Q&A panel. Kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. It's kind of like a no shit moment. And I'd say it's leadership and club sports and just the lack of play. And I think Joe Ken was speaking about this. Kids of yesteryear, and I don't want to be, you know, we're all being that old guy talking about the, you know, young kids, but, you know, we'd be out playing and say you want to play kickball or baseball, you got to divide up teams. Well, who's going to pick? Well, now you have club sports going all the way down to the youngest level. So parents are throwing their kids in club sports, so there's no captains. So no captains are learning to step up. You know, so no kids are learning to step up. No kids are learning to step up on the playground. If somebody's being bullied, and I was a person that got bullied, so by no means am I a fan of bullying. But if somebody's being bullied and there's nobody on the playground that's stepping up to say, hey, stop that shit. Because the teachers and everybody are intervening so fast, you know, to handle that. So we're seeing, you know, a lack of leadership coming up, and I'm seeing it now. I mean, we're starting to see it in the business community with the people that we're hiring when it comes to having the leadership ability to be able to step up and do what they need to do. And now it's falling upon, you know, businesses to develop a skill that really should have started being developed when they were in elementary school playing. So that lack of play hasn't just been a lack of physical development. It's been a lack of stepping up and a lack of leadership.
That's one of the questions you ask. If you're coaching a sport, ask yourself this question. Would those kids be getting more experience and getting better at their sport, and would they have more fun if there wasn't parents involved? If you're thinking about that question, then, you know, that's maybe an avenue we're doing, right? We're doing too much, right? Though we're talking about free play, the kids having the opportunity to do that. Sometimes, if the kids would coach themselves, they might be better off. And sometimes us as coaches have to be realistic and humble enough to admit that. So.
I think in response to that is, and I think it ties in with grit, was just, I think, an appreciation for just how hard and how long it takes to develop into, let's say, a national caliber, world-class athlete. If you look at today's marathon runners, I mean, the world's best marathon runners are in their late 20s, early 30s. It takes an inordinately long time to develop that kind of capacity. And the same thing can probably be true on just about any sport. It's just the amount of time it takes to develop your skill set, as well as capacity, as well as function. And I see a lot of young men, young women come in and say they want it now. I want it yesterday, without any appreciation for the amount of time and energy and work that it's going to take to develop that. So, and I don't fault them. I just think they've been kind of set up to believe that everything comes yesterday. So I think just a greater appreciation for the amount of time and energy it'll take to develop.
I always was to develop mind. I'm a house, mind and heart. Mind with education and knowledge, and the heart with compassion and respect. And I try to pass that on to people that come to my house. And I mean, have a gym that has been equipped actually by a lot of things from Dave and things like that. And I even have the players that I have, I try to pass that on, you know, be respectful, no matter who, the lowest of the lowest, always be respectful.
You thought we were going to say posterior chain, didn't you? Along those lines, hips. Just this whole area. If you want some physical, just
Where do you guys see, like, what trends do you see? Like, obviously, GPS, screening and assessment tools become a big thing. What do you see continuing forward with different trends in fitness, coaching, sports, and so on?
I see the machines getting easier to use to make it more comfortable to the work. I'm not lying. Now they're not here yet, but they're going to be in Columbus. Some kind of floating machine that you can do the exercise and it makes you lighter, so you can lift the most weight, and it's kind of crap. Instead of making things harder. I forgot the name of the damn machine, but it's pretty cool.
The condom challenge. Who can suck the condom through the nose, the mouth, that kind of shit. We're going to see more of that. That's because of all the things we talked about earlier.
I think the scary thing that I think all of us in this room have to hold on to is that think about what you've done, and whether in the private sector, whether you're just training clients or actually coaching, but think about the word coach and think about what you've had to do, the sacrifices you made and the work you've done, the effort you put into being called a coach. Now add social media, now everybody's a coach. I think everybody in this room has been devalued at some one point or another from uneducated, inexperienced people that share or feel that they share the same passion as you do, but yet they haven't invested as much into it. So I think that's the one thing and it's not the grumpy just criticize everybody else, but it's understand what you had to do to be a coach, how much sacrifice you had to make, and just be very cautious when everybody else calls themselves the same thing without actually earning it. Right? So that's the trend I think we have to just be cognizant of.
What kind of things on the grid side of things? What kind of things have you guys used personally to instill grit? Because I mean, when I was growing up, the way our coaches would instill grit was just screaming at us and we run some more. Versus I grew up on a farm as well. Just breaking rocks and digging ditches. But what kind of things do you guys see that you can do as coaches to instill grit in your athletes that you don't have? You're not their parents. You can't actually do that kind of thing.
I think one thing that we do, and we do regularly with our swimmers, is I'm a big fan of intentional adversity. I mean, our practices are already challenging. I mean, we're working out 4 hours a day, 6 days a week pretty much. It's hard stuff. That in and of itself is hard. But then throwing a monkey wrench in their routine, just throwing something at them that is completely off their radar screen that they're going to have to adapt to.